Amidst a scene of destruction, a figure stands with arms wide open. He has finally encountered something that makes him feel alive, something truly enjoyable, and a wide, unconscious smile spreads across his face. The setting shifts to a normal school day in Sendai City. In a classroom, a student suggests a group study session at a family restaurant. A girl with distinctive white streaks in her hair turns to a quiet classmate sitting alone and asks if he wants to join them. The boy, identified as Koryu Karace, dismisses the offer, stating that he's fine. He reassures her, but his gaze is distant and unengaged, leaving the girl looking surprised and a little hurt by his curt refusal. He offers a simple, "well then," and walks out of the classroom, leaving her with a hand slightly raised as if to say something more. As he disappears from sight, another classmate approaches the girl with a quiet but firm warning. She should stay away from Koryu. The warning is followed by a litany of rumors. People say he's become completely antisocial since his mother passed away. They whisper that he suddenly snapped and beat up a senior. There are even claims that he now hunts down delinquents on the streets, with no end to the dangerous stories about it. Later, the girl's friends tease her, asking if she was interested in Koryu. She vehemently denies it, flustered, as her friends decide to go get parfaits instead. Despite her denial, her thoughts return to their brief exchange. Recalling his expression, she has a sudden realization. Koryu looked like he was crying. In that moment, a single, unseen tear had traced a path down his face. Koryu walks alone through the city streets. As he stops at a railroad crossing, the sight of a family, a mother, a father, and their young child, walking together triggers a painful memory. His mind drifts back to his childhood, to a time he asked his mother why he didn't have a father and if she was happy. She had told him that while life has its inconveniences, it's about enjoying the accumulation of small moments of happiness. The memory lingers as he stands alone in the present. He recalled his mother's encouraging words, urging him to lift his head and assuring him that he would find things to enjoy. Despite her memory, he stood at the train crossing, his gaze fixed downward as the crossing gate lay still nearby. The gate suddenly began to lower in front of him. He looked up, his eyes wide with surprise as the barrier descended. His surprise, however, was not for the gate, but for what floated beyond it. A large QR code suspended in the sky. He questioned why it was hovering there and, more puzzlingly, why the people around him seemed completely oblivious to its presence. He pulled out his phone, dismissing the sight as some kind of stupid prank. Yet his mother's voice echoed in his memory, her words about finding things to enjoy lingering in his thoughts. With a tap of his finger, he scanned the code. An application began to load, and a message appeared on his screen. "Welcome to Dungeon Seekers, Koryu Karace." The application, titled Dungeon Seekers, opened to a profile page displaying his name and a level indicator. He murmured the name aloud, realizing it was some kind of tool that utilized his phone's camera as a dark, swirling vortex materialized on the ground before him. Looking through the phone's camera, he saw an ordinary salaryman walking down the street. The application's interface, however, overlaid a swirling black portal directly onto the man, complete with a button labeled Enter. He lowered the phone, looking from the unsuspecting man back to the screen. He understood now. Pressing the Enter button would initiate whatever this strange application was designed to do. A brilliant flash of light erupted. The salaryman was violently jerked off his feet, pulled backward by an invisible force as his wig flew from his head. Koryu could only stare, his face a mask of pure shock. The man landed hard, completely disoriented. He clutched his head, wondering if he'd seen a camera flash. He was certain a student had been standing there just a moment ago, but now there was no one. He tried to dismiss the strange event as a trick of his mind. In a blinding flash of light, Koryu Karace materializes against a backdrop of ancient stone. Shielding his face, his eyes then snap open, wide with shock and disbelief at the sudden, impossible change of scenery. He finds himself standing alone in a vast, torch-lit corridor, the stone arches stretching into an unnerving darkness. Utterly bewildered, a single word escapes his lips. What? He glances around the decaying hall, his phone still clutched in his hand. The flickering torchlight reveals crumbling walls and overgrown flora. He quietly wonders where on earth he could be. To ground himself, he reaches out, his fingers brushing against the cold, rough surface of the wall. The scent of earth and the solid feel of the stone confirm his worst fear. This is no dream. He was supposed to be on his way home, but now he considers the absurd possibility that he's been transported into a game or a novel. As he muses that this situation is just like a game, complete with things like status and skills, the distinct sound of heavy footsteps begins to echo from the darkness ahead, drawing his attention. He turns toward the sound as a putrid smell assaults his senses. A grotesque figure emerges from the shadows, its skin a dirty green, its eyes a malevolent red. It brandishes a crude wooden club. The creature is a goblin, chittering as it approaches. Instead of terror, a strange excitement fills Koryu. The appearance of a classic monster only reinforces his delusion, and he remarks with a grin that this really must be a game. With a savage shriek, the goblin lunges. The club connects with a sickening thud, sending Koryu sprawling backward. The searing pain instantly shatters his fantasy. This is real. This is reality. He scrambles away on the stone floor, a cold sweat breaking out on his brow. A wave of panicked relief washes over him as he realizes his bag took the brunt of the impact. Without it, he would have been in serious trouble. Before he can recover, The goblin looms over him, raising its club for a final, deadly strike. As it lets out a guttural cry, a second, far more terrifying creature emerges from the darkness beside it, a massive wolf wearing a bone-white, skull-like mask. He realizes with a jolt that the wolf-like creature is laughing at him. A surge of defiance cuts through his fear. Shouting not to be underestimated, he pivots and drives a powerful kick into the monster's jaw. The impact sends the smaller goblin tumbling away as he turns and sprints down a long, torchlit corridor. He believes he's shaken them off, pausing to catch his breath. His first instinct is to find the police, but he quickly dismisses the idea, realizing he must first find an exit. A faint draft of air catches his attention, and spotting a dark archway, he runs towards it, hoping it's the way out. His hope for an escape is immediately crushed. As he rounds the corner, he finds his path blocked by a new group of monsters, a hulking, pig-like creature flanked by two more goblins. His momentary relief evaporates into shock. The massive creature wastes no time, swinging a colossal club with devastating force. The blow connects, sending him hurtling through the air. His phone and other belongings scatter across the stone floor. He lands hard, stunned by the sheer size of the new monster. The urgent need to flee screams in his mind, but another goblin is already upon him, raising a spiked club to finish the job. The goblin leaps, a familiar sight he recognizes as the same one from the initial attack. He understands just how dire his situation has become as the monster descends upon him. But the blow never lands. A massive, sharp tusk suddenly erupts from the goblin's chest. From behind, the skull wolf has appeared and impaled its smaller ally, killing it instantly. The lifeless body slumps to the ground with a sickening thud. He stares in disbelief at the scene. The remaining monsters, the hulking orc and its two goblin companions, begin to cackle and dance with glee, celebrating the death of their comrade. He can't comprehend what kind of creatures they are. Their morbid celebration, however, presents an opening. He realizes that while they are distracted, this is his chance to escape. He pushes himself up, his eyes fixed on his phone lying nearby. But as he looks up, his hope vanishes. The skull wolf now stands alongside the orc and the other goblins, forming an impassable wall. Faced with this new, united front, his spirit sinks. He can't believe this is happening at such a critical moment. He collapsed to the stone floor, his mind reeling from the impossible situation. Why was he here, in this incomprehensible place, being attacked by monsters? With everything going wrong, he cursed his very existence. In that moment of despair, a memory surfaced, a conversation with his mother where he'd admitted he couldn't find anything enjoyable in life. As the thought faded, his phone screen lit up with an unexpected message. He had received 30 skill points as an initial bonus. He stared at the screen, which displayed his name, Kureisku, alongside LV1 and SP30. The entire interface, with its levels and skills, struck him as being just like a video game. But a sudden, sharp throb from his arm shattered that illusion. He winced, clutching the source of the raw, undeniable pain. His eyes widened in terror. If this pain was real, he realized with dawning horror, then the danger must be real as well. A surge of panic propelled him into action. He frantically scrolled through the list of available skills on his phone, his thoughts screaming for him to hurry. There had to be something he could use before the Goblin's Club came crashing down. On the second floor, Koryu Kureis swings his makeshift club, shattering a crystalline barrier. He then advances to the third floor, confronting a massive, tusked orc and preparing to strike. He lets out a fierce cry, his face a mask of pure determination as he brings his weapon down in a powerful, sweeping arc. The blow connects with devastating force, splattering the dungeon boss. As the creature falls, a notification chimes on his phone, announcing that the dungeon conquest was successful. The message confirms his level up to 21. He has been awarded skill points and has acquired 3 new titles: Daredevil, Usurper, and Natural Born Warrior. He looks down at the defeated boss, realizing he was able to take it down without much trouble. He attributes his success to the close combat proficiency skill, marveling at its power and the impressive new titles he's gained. His thoughts then turn to the strange Dungeon Seekers app. He reflects on how bizarre this world and the application are, making it possible to do things that would normally be impossible. His contemplation is interrupted by a glowing magic circle materializing on the floor. It looks similar to the one that transported him into the dungeon. He wonders if he's going back to his original world or if something new is about to happen, but concludes that either way, he has no choice but to see. As he steps onto it, the circle erupts in a blinding flash of light. When the light subsides, he finds himself in a completely different place, a cluttered, dusty room. His eyes widen in surprise as he takes in the unfamiliar surroundings and spots another person, a man in a suit, standing further inside. He takes a cautious step forward into the dusty storehouse, wondering if he has returned to the real world or entered a new dungeon. A quick assessment reveals no enemies nearby. He yelped in surprise, losing his balance as he juggled several large pickles over a barrel. A cloud of rice bran dust puffed up around him. The sudden movement sent him tumbling backward onto the cluttered floor. He landed hard, but managed to save one of the pickles, clutching it with relief. He recalled a story about the hero date Masamune, who supposedly smashed a tea set in shame after nearly dropping it. But Koryu knew he couldn't bring himself to do something so wasteful. As he recovered, a series of chimes drew his attention to his phone. He looked at the screen, wondering what was happening. The notifications clarified his situation. An information box from the app informed him that he had entered a reward room and instructed him to store items. He looked around the dusty storehouse, a new understanding dawning on him. This place was also part of the Dungeon Seekers event. Realizing the opportunity, he grew excited. He decided to test the storage function, tapping his phone. The tea set he had nearly dropped vanished instantly, successfully stored in his item list. He marveled at the convenience and began to look for other useful objects. His search was cut short by a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread. An image of a monstrous, gaping maw filled his mind, and he spun around, instinct screaming of danger. He scanned the room, a cold sweat on his brow, questioning the source of the terrifying presence. His eyes were drawn upward toward the second floor of the storehouse, where a sheathed sword rested on a stand. He cautiously ascended the stairs for a closer look. The sword rested on an ornate stand. He felt certain that this weapon was the source of the powerful presence that had startled him. As he drew nearer, he observed the deep indigo scabbard, which seemed to be swaying gently. It was pulsing as if it were alive. Compelled, he slowly reached his hand toward it. The moment his fingers wrapped around the hilt, a powerful energy surged through him. His eyes widened in shock as the sword's aura intensified, and a drop of blood trickled from the blade onto his hand. He stares, wide-eyed and sweating, as the sword's guard makes a final, sharp click, locking itself into place. The sudden chime of a Dungeon Seeker's notification shatters the trance. The overwhelming aura from the blade vanishes, and he looks down his hand, wondering what strange state he had just been in. He steps back from the display stand, relieved to be free of the sword's influence. Holding the weapon, he wonders what the notification could be about this time. His phone displays an urgent message. The reward room will close in 10 seconds. Panic sets in as he realizes he has a time limit and quickly scans the walls for anything else to grab. With no time to be selective, he decides this will have to do. In a flash of light, all the items in the room are absorbed and stored away. In an instant, the dark dungeon dissolves around him, replaced by the familiar sight of a city skyline under a bright sky. The world solidifies into a quiet scene, birds resting on power lines above a railroad crossing. He stands by the tracks, letting out a sigh of relief. He is back in his own world. The mundane sight of a delivery scooter passing by confirms it. Later, in his room, he confirms it wasn't a dream. His phone shows the results. He leveled up, gained skill points, and acquired a title. He recalls the near-death situation and the profound joy that came with the fight. He realizes he must first organize all the information he has on Dungeon Seekers. As he thinks, a woman's voice tells him not to be surprised. He looks up to see a figure in a kimono looking down at him with a wry smile. She asks if he is the new Dungeon Seekers player. She introduces herself as Venom, a fellow Dungeon Seekers player, confirming Koryu's suspicion that she is no ordinary person. She offers to teach him, a rookie, about this new world, but explains that she has a favor to ask in return. Her favor is simple. She asks him to become her friend. She holds up her phone, displaying a friend request sent for the Dungeon Seekers interface. A notification materializes before a stunned Koryu, prompting him to accept or decline the request from Venom. Sometime later, they are seated in a family restaurant. Venom bows her head deeply to the table, offering a sincere apology for involving a high school student like him. Koryu looks on, surprised by the gesture. He asks if the 2D code he scanned was her doing, and she confirms that she set up. As a waitress takes their order, Venom mentions she wants to discuss things further and adds a cheesecake for him. He addresses her formally as Ms. Venom, while she calmly sips her coffee, their meal now finished. He finally asks the question that has been on his mind. What exactly is Dungeon Seekers? In response, Venom admits that she doesn't know everything herself, but she agrees to share what information she has. She begins with a stern warning, her reflection appearing in his coffee cup. The Dungeon Seekers' terms of service, she explains, strictly prohibit sharing information with non-members, and breaking this rule results in severe penalties. She continues, explaining that Dungeon Seekers is fundamentally a tool for collecting items. Skills and levels are merely support functions for this primary purpose. Crucially, these abilities can be used outside the dungeons, in the real world, and the items collected can even be traded for actual money. He processed her words, his eyes wide with dawning horror. In the real world too? He asked, needing to be certain. Venom's gaze was steady as she confirmed his fear, asking if he truly understood what that meant. She elaborated on the grim reality. Dungeon Seekers was not a game, but a real-world event. Any injuries sustained within a dungeon were real injuries, and death was absolute. It was a genuine life-or-death struggle against monsters. The thought filled Koryu's mind with images of terrifying beasts, and a cold sweat broke out across his face as the true danger of his situation finally sank in. Processing this grim reality, Koryu's thoughts shifted to a more practical matter. Can items be sold? He asked. Venom's expression sharpened with surprise, questioning if he had already managed to reach a reward room and acquire items. He confirmed that he had defeated some goblins. Venom noted that he was lucky to have entered an F-rank dungeon with low difficulty. She warned him sternly that if he had first encountered an E-rank ogre boss, he would already be dead. Returning to his question, she expressed her relief that he was safe before explaining that he could sell items through the app's item section. The conversion rate, she stated, was 1 point to 100 yen. Koryu immediately pulled out his phone. He navigated to his inventory. The first item was a tea set with an estimated value of 150 points. He quickly did the math, 15,000 yen. A decent amount. His curiosity piqued. He wondered about the value of the sword. Scrolling down, he found it, Katana Dragon Eater. His eyes widened to the number displayed next to it. 3,300,000,000 points. He stared, dumbfounded, tried to count the zeros, to comprehend the sheer scale of the figure on his screen. The value was an impossible 33 billion yen. The realization struck with physical force, prompting a shocked cry from Venom, who had glanced over at his screen. "What?" she exclaimed, her composure completely shattered. Flustered, Koryu quickly apologized, trying to cover his tracks by claiming his shock was over the 15,000 yen for the tea set being a lot for a student. He knew he couldn't tell her about the Dragon Eater. Venom's expression, however, turned sharp and calculating. She told him that rare items worth tens or even hundreds of millions were exactly what she was looking for. He listened as Venom explained her circumstances. She has a sister suffering from an incurable disease, and the treatment requires an absurd amount of money. She confessed that earning that kind of money in the real world is difficult, and even risking her life in dungeons, there's a limit to what she can accomplish alone. For her, Dungeon Seekers is the only way. She then laid out her proposal. If they were to form a party, she reasoned, they could efficiently clear high-difficulty dungeons and collect valuable items together. She revealed her recruitment method, explaining that it's rare to find someone with the right qualities to even download the app. To find qualified individuals, she put QR codes in inconspicuous places. That, she concluded, was how she found him. Her professional demeanor crumbled, and tears began to fall. She admitted feeling terrible for asking a high school student for help, but pleaded that she needed to borrow his strength. Her hands trembled as teardrops splattered across her knuckles. Koryu was taken aback by her sudden vulnerability, the weight of her desperate request settling between them in the quiet diner. He considered her plea, then stated that regardless of her intentions, he was grateful for the invitation to the app and would like to help if he could. At his words, Venom's face lit up with overwhelming relief and joy, tears welling in her eyes as she asked if he truly meant it. He held up a hand, however, explaining that he was exhausted from the day's events and needed time to think. He asked if he could give her an official answer later. She quickly composed herself, agreeing that his request made sense. Leaning in close, she suggested they call it a day and that he could contact her via direct message when he had decided. Startled by her proximity, he stammered his agreement. As they parted ways outside the restaurant, she gave him a confident wink, saying she was looking forward to when they could challenge dungeons together. He watched her go, his expression thoughtful. Elsewhere, in the suffocating darkness of a cave, the true dangers of their pursuit became terrifyingly clear. A young woman screamed as a brutal, unseen attack severed her arm, sending her crashing to the stone floor in a pool of her own blood. Her cries of agony echoed in the cavern. Lying broken on the dungeon floor, she desperately pleads with the figure standing over her. She offers all her money, all her items, anything they want, explaining that this was only meant to be a small adventure. Her companion, tears streaming down his face, begs for them to stop. The assailant dismisses the pleas, casually remarking that the last man died too quickly when his organs were removed. The shadowy assailant looms over her, expressing a chilling desire to savor the moment and warning her not to die too quickly. A final, desperate scream is cut short by a violent spray of blood. As the deed is done, a single thought crosses the killer's mind, a hope that the next player will not perish so easily. Cornered in an alley by a club-wielding goblin, Koryu Karase sees an interface materialize before his eyes, listing available skills. As the monster lunges, a desperate thought screams through his mind. He must be given the power to fight. In response, a new prompt appears, asking him to confirm learning close combat proficiency. In a vision, he sees himself standing before a vast army, a glowing orb of energy pulsing in his chest as he reaches for it. As he accepts, he feels a new sensation spreading throughout his body, an echo of countless battles fought by warriors long past. The overwhelming influx of information and instinct causes him to shut his eyes, absorbing the newfound knowledge. An image flashes through his mind, a lone conqueror standing victorious atop a mountain of the slain. When he opens his eyes again, his entire demeanor has changed. A confident smirk plays on his lips as the system confirms his mastery of close combat. With fluid, instinctual motion, he disarms the goblin, catching its club mid-swing. The skill's power is absolute. In a flash of memory, the hulking skull wolf is sent tumbling through the air, utterly defeated, as a nearby orc and goblin shaman look on in disbelief. This newfound strength seems to echo elsewhere. Another goblin shrieks in surprise as a salaryman, previously a victim, now stands his ground with unnerving calm against the monster. Returning to the present, Koryu's dominance is complete. He pins the disarmed goblin to the pavement with his foot, his expression cold and unyielding. The orc and its companion watch, their shock hardening into fury. Their rage erupts. With a deafening roar, the orc and the other goblin charge forward, intent on crushing him. All of Koryu's newfound confidence evaporates, replaced by sheer terror at the sight of the oncoming onslaught. His fear vanishes, replaced by a startling clarity. For so long, He had lived with a sense of stagnation, resenting himself and the meaningless triviality of his daily life. He had never truly felt alive. Now, moving with an instinct he didn't know he possessed, he dodges a monstrous fist and sends the smaller goblin flying with a powerful, arcing kick. He pivots to face the charging orc. As his body heats with adrenaline, an unconscious smile forms on his lips. He understands now. His body is telling him that he has finally found it. With a primal roar, he lunges forward. His thoughts are simple: direct, kill, devour, live. He meets the orc's gaze and recognizes the pure, murderous intent staring back at him. The beast swings its massive, clawed hand down in a crushing arc. Yet, Koryu feels no terror. This raw exchange, this desperate clash of wills. These, he realizes, are the emotions of being alive. He bellows and meets the attack head-on, smashing his club directly into the orc's face with explosive force. Elsewhere, in a narrow, brick-lined alley, the salaryman is sent flying by a brutal blow from a similar pig-like monster. The bodies of other victims lie still on the cobblestones. He slams hard against a wall, his body crumpling to the ground as the creature stands over him. Victorious, the focus returns to Koryu. A wide, chilling grin spreads across his face as he clenches his fist. A single thought echoes in his mind. Mom, I found it. He stands over the battered and bleeding orc, laughing. He exclaims that he's having fun, that he can't get enough of this exchange of raw emotions. His face, splattered with blood, is a mask of manic glee. He leans in close to the terrified creature, roaring at the pig demon to get up and have some more fun. He brought his arm down with crushing force, delivering one final, devastating blow to the orc's skull. The creature's head exploded upon impact, its massive body slumping lifelessly to the ground. He stood over the corpse, a silent victor in the now quiet alley. As the monster's body began to dissolve into motes of light, a notification appeared on his phone. It was from Dungeon Seekers, announcing that he had leveled up and been awarded skill points. He stared at the screen, a small cut visible on his cheek, quietly acknowledging the strange reality of his situation. His weary expression then twisted into a wide, unnerving grin. He realized with a chilling clarity that this life-or-death struggle felt exactly like a game to him, from beginning to end. Meanwhile, under the bright lights of Sendai Station, the evening air carried a distinct chill. A phone rang, breaking the quiet of the night. Standing atop a nearby building, a young woman answered the call, confirming her name was Riha Amamiya. The voice on the other end, sounding pleased, noted her safe arrival in Sendai. The voice belonged to her sister, speaking from the DS management office in Tokyo. She confirmed that Riha had reviewed the case files, reminding her of the danger involved and urging her to remain vigilant. The mission was clear: investigate the mass deaths of Dungeon Seekers players in the Tohoku region. Riha, her expression hardening with resolve as she gazed over the snowy city, affirmed that she understood. She promised to swiftly investigate the cause of the deaths and put an end to it. Within the confines of Sendai City, a D-rank dungeon presents its challenge: a rugged, mountainous terrain under a cloudy sky. Deep inside, Koryu Kureis evades the snapping mandibles of a monstrous, giant ant, his body a blur of motion as he dodges the ferocious attack. He presses his counterattack, his twin blades slicing through the air and felling several of the insectoid creatures in a single, fluid motion. Just as the bodies hit the ground, another ant descends upon him from the trees, its shadow falling over him as it prepares to strike. A sharp sense of peril flashes through his mind. His intuition skill activates, warning him of the impending danger as he and a fellow seeker brace for the assault. Empowered by his skills, he finds he can see their movements clearly, allowing him to instantly derive the optimal solution for combat. His close combat proficiency guides his body as he leaps, blades poised to strike a fatal blow. He reflects that the enemies in this D-rank dungeon are indeed stronger, but the intuition skill he acquired before entering works perfectly with his combat style. Feeling confident, his attention is drawn to a massive ant queen, the dungeon boss, emerging from its mound surrounded by a swarm. He steels himself, ready to conquer the dungeon at this rate. Having emerged victorious, Koryu walks through the city streets. A notification confirms his success. He has conquered the D-rank dungeon, his level has increased, and he has acquired the title One-Man Army. He tells his companion, the girl with the white streaked hair, that he also got good items and has enough skill points for that skill. He excitedly plans to organize his loot and skills that night. As he speaks, she turns her gaze toward him, her expression unreadable as she offers a simple, cryptic warning: be careful. The words make him pause. He looks around the crowded crosswalk, but she is nowhere to be seen. He wonders if he imagined a girl talking to him, dismissing it as fatigue. After all, if there were any real danger, his intuition skill would have surely reacted. Later that night, the door to Koryu Kure's apartment slides open, revealing a quiet, tidy living space. Outside, the crescent moon hangs over the city. He stands in the shower, washing his hair while contemplating his recent gains. He is now level 33, with the skills close combat proficiency and intuition. More unsettling are the new titles awarded based on his combat style. Usurper, for achieving perfect victory against a superior opponent. Daredevil, for acting without regard for his own life. And One-Man Army. He muses that they make him sound like a maniac. The final one, Natural War, is described as an innate talent that will pave a turbulent path. He doesn't understand its meaning, but it feels like a prophecy. He steps out of the bathroom, thinking it must simply mean he has talent. A sudden noise from his front door draws his attention. He opens it to find the woman in the kimono standing in his entryway. He stares in shock, recognizing her as Venom and demanding to know what she's doing there. She smiles coyly, announcing her arrival and stating that there's only one reason a girl would visit a boy's house. She's interested. He questions how she found his address, remembering that seekers have an annoying feature that shows friends' locations. She laughs it off, joking that it's a shame she didn't arrive earlier to see him naked. As she notes how tidy his apartment is, he offers her coffee. She accepts, adding that she has something to discuss with him about his sister. His expression hardens as he agrees it's a long story. As he hands her a mug, she points at him and asks bluntly, "You're not a virgin, are you?" The unexpected question makes him flinch, causing coffee to splash from a cup. In that instant, his intuition skill screams danger. A blinding flash of light erupts from outside, shattering the window. He realizes this is bad. Venom's face twists into a mask of fury. She snarls that she knew he must have cleared several F-rank dungeons and leveled up, accusing him of having a hobby of playing around with virgins. The force of the explosion blasts him out of his own apartment, sending him plummeting towards the street below as he wonders what has happened. Meanwhile, perched high above the city on a steel structure, Riha Amamiya watches the destruction unfold. With a determined gaze, she observes the explosion at Koryu's building and remarks, "It seems to have begun." As Koryu falls, shadowy tendrils lash out at him. He twists his body, narrowly dodging the attacks in midair, wondering if his assailant is using a perception interference skill or item to cause such chaos. From above, Venom floats, laughing maniacally. She encourages him to do his best, taunting that he must have some evasion skills. He crashes onto the pavement below, landing hard amidst shattered concrete and debris. He struggles to push himself up, his face grimacing with effort and pain. His attacker, the woman in the kimono, smiled cruelly as a dark orb of energy formed in her palm. She realized with amusement that this boy was used to player killing. He struggled to evade, relying solely on his intuition skill. The difference in their levels was immense. His only hope was to hang on and find a way out. As he dodged, she taunted him, asking if he was starting to feel it. A sudden wave of sickness washed over him, and he clutched his face, realizing with horror that he had been poisoned. She confirmed his fears, stating that he should have realized she was a poison user from her character name, Venom. He demanded to know why she was doing this. She casually replied that it was her hobby, explaining that she couldn't help but enjoy watching people break. With a grotesque, ecstatic expression, she recalled another girl she had tormented who had begged for her life as her flesh was slowly flayed away. The memory, she declared, was hilarious. She sneered, remarking that the Dungeon Seekers app was the perfect tool for indulging in her fun. Seeing the defiant glare still on his face, she mocked him, questioning how he could still make such an expression while writhing on the ground amidst a swarm of summoned snakes. Despite her taunts, he scrambled to his feet and made a desperate run for it. She urged him on with sadistic glee, telling him to cry, scream, and beg for his life in a miserable way. His flight only fueled her amusement. She laughed maniacally, declaring how much fun this was. She noted that he was a higher level than her previous toys and would likely entertain her for quite a while. She then offered him a choice, asking if he had any requests for how he'd like to be broken. She paused her assault, observing him from a distance. She had planned to cut off his limbs, but he still possessed enough strength to evade her. Realizing the poison needed more time to take full effect, she changed her approach. She called out to him, suggesting they chat for a bit. She feigned hurt, asking why he didn't trust her, and entered a dungeon alone. Koryu scoffed, bluntly stating that her story about a dying sister was rotten. He admitted that he had only considered teaming up with an experienced player like her to gain access to higher difficulty dungeons. Her expression shifted to one of understanding. She acknowledged that her method of targeting newbies must have been obvious to him. He pressed his advantage with a final insult, telling her that her breath stank so badly he never wanted to get close to her again. Her smile vanished as she coolly remarked that the air was much better now. His defiance shatters her composure. Venom's face contorts into a mask of pure fury, dark power cracking across her features as she roars, "You little brat. I'll tear you apart right now." As she lunges, he braces himself, gripping the hilt of a sheathed katana. With sweat beading on his brow, he yells a single command, "Manifest." Now, in response, a brilliant arc of light flashes through the air as the blade is drawn in a single, swift motion. The glowing blade extends, held firmly in his hand under a starry sky. The slash shreds her ornate kimono, revealing a sleek black bodysuit underneath as she is forced back by the unexpected assault. She stares in disbelief, questioning why the boy is smiling. He explains that while she was savoring her presumed victory, he was taking the opportunity to acquire a new skill from the dungeon system. Venom understands. The blade he picked up in some dungeon was his trump card. Koryu confirms her suspicion, adding that the blade only reached her kimono. Now that he knows her tactics, he declares he won't fall for her provocations again and will simply whittle her down with poison and ranged attacks. Stunned, she demands to know what kind of skill he could have possibly acquired to overcome this situation. He raises the blade before him, its surface now swirling with a dark, ominous energy. He reveals its name, Autumn Sword Dragon Eater. Inside the DS Management Office's Tokyo branch, a young woman with dark hair and a headset sits intently at her workstation. Her expression is one of fatigue. A nearby screen displays a profile for a player known only as Venom, a female whose real name is unknown. She is startled when a man with glasses leans in close behind her. With a smug grin, he greets her as Amamiya and commends her for working late. Turning to face him, she addresses him as Producer Kuga. He asks if Venom is the suspect in the recent serial killings. Amamiya confirms that they have gathered the necessary evidence, but reveals they are holding off on her apprehension due to an interesting report. She adds that her sister, Riha, is currently tracking the suspect. Producer Kuga's interest is piqued. He rests his chin on his hand, asking about this report. Amamiya begins to explain, noting that there is just one thing they need to consider. Elsewhere, Koryu Kurase crouches low, his sword held ready. A swirl of energy and light particles envelopes him as he activates a skill, the Demon's Sword, Fantasy Class. He stands opposite a woman with long, light-colored hair, who questions if his power is the secret Sword Dragon Eater. She considers that it might be a bluff, yet she can sense a definite change in him, believing he must have some trick prepared. Koryu, meanwhile, steals his resolve, deciding against running away. The woman's thoughts turn sadistic. She imagines Koryu is like a frog hypnotized by a snake, unable to move because of her poison. She inwardly delights at the thought of his complete and utter humiliation. Deciding to act, she announces her intent to use her trump card. She launches a single orb of light high into the night sky. Below, Koryu glances at his phone, thinking that no matter the skill, it is still just a sword. With a sharp snap of her fingers, the woman triggers her trap. The lone orb detonates, multiplying into a dense shower of projectiles, each one inscribed with a glowing magical sigil. Koryu's eyes widen in alarm as he looks up at the unexpected onslaught. As the magical barrage rains down, the woman erupts in maniacal laughter. She screams that she will make him pay for mocking her. She cackled with glee as the magical storm raged, her voice ringing out over the explosions. She mockingly asked her target if he had finally learned his lesson. The onslaught continued, a relentless torrent of magical energy and light tearing through the area. As the dust began to settle, she momentarily wondered if she had overdone it. The thought quickly passed. It was no fun if she couldn't break them slowly. She was certain that after such a big game, at least some pieces of him would remain. But her confidence shattered when she saw him standing completely unharmed within a swirling vortex of energy. She realized with disbelief that it wasn't just her magic circle and poison mist that were gone. They were actively disappearing. He was not just dispelling her magic. A monstrous, shadowy entity with a gaping maw was actively devouring it. A wave of pure terror washed over her as she stared up at the spectacle. Before she could react, he was upon her, his hand clamping around her leg in an iron grip. With a predatory grin, he vowed that she would not escape. He made good on his promise, swinging his blade in a powerful arc as he unleashed a secret skill. The technique manifested as the Dragon Devourer. A colossal, ethereal dragon's head formed from the energy of his swing, lunging towards her with jaws wide open. The spectral beast struck true, its energy slamming into her midsection with crushing force. The force of the blow sent her tumbling helplessly through the air, completely overwhelmed. He watches as the force of his attack sends the light-haired woman spiraling through the air, her body lit. As she tumbles, a manic laugh escapes her lips. A sudden, terrifying realization dawns on her. He is just like her. From his perspective, a monstrous shadow with a single glowing eye and a jagged maw grins down at her. He acknowledges her thought, that they are the same kind. As she plummets towards the ground, she curses her mistake, realizing too late the true nature of the monster she provoked. The shadowy maw snaps shut, the power receding. The monstrous visage fades, leaving Koryu standing alone on the bridge. He watches silently as a distant flicker of light marks where his adversary vanished into the night sky. He reflects on the skill he just used, Dragon Devourer, an unavoidable strike that can pierce a dragon's scale, devouring its target whole at a massive cost of 300 SP. He acknowledges its tremendous power, fitting for such a high cost, but the strain is too much. His body gives out, and he collapses to one knee, gasping for breath. Kneeling on the ground, he wonders if the physical backlash is a result of his current level being too low. The woman's words, that they are the same, echo in his mind, but he fiercely rejects the notion. He will not become like her. This realization hardens his resolve. He must delve into dungeons and gain more power. As his fierce determination sets in, a calm voice cuts through the night, calling his full name. Startled, he spins around, clutching his sword and demanding to know who is there. He is met by the sight of a woman in an ornate kimono. His eyes widen in shock and disbelief. In the place of the mysterious woman in the kimono, another figure now stands. A young woman with short, dark hair, clad in a hooded coat over a school uniform. She holds a long staff topped with an intricate, geometric design, her expression serious and unreadable. Her sudden appearance startles Koryu, who grips his own weapon tightly. He hadn't sensed her presence at all, and immediately wonders who she is and if she's allied with the woman he just fought, Venom. She asks if she may speak with him, and he hesitantly agrees. Internally, he chides himself for his meek response. The young woman introduces herself as Riha Amamiya, stating that she is with the Dungeon Seekers Management and that her explanation might be complicated. His suspicion is immediately piqued. He questions why. If she's from management, they wouldn't just send a message through the system. He confronts her directly, noting that she knows about Venom and is aware that he just killed another player. He flatly refuses her request, declaring that he can't trust someone who appears so suddenly and makes such claims. He adds that he doubts she's truly with management. Riha looks away, admitting that part is complicated, a reaction Koryu notes with rising distrust. Her patience wearing thin, Riha announces she has no choice. A brilliant, golden-blue magical energy erupts from her body, swirling around her staff. She addresses Koryu by his full name, assuring him she won't kill or injure him, but that he must come to Tokyo for questioning. She adds a small warning that it might hurt a little. She stares him down, her eyes glowing with power, and declares her intent to subdue him and take him by force. In response, a confident, challenging smirk spreads across Koryu's face. He now understands. He is facing a truly formidable enemy. This world is a layered one, a place where the surface world and the underworld overlap. To counter the invasions from this other realm, a system known as Dungeon Seekers was developed. Its purpose, to cultivate human resources capable of collecting the powerful items produced in the layered world. However, troublemakers soon began to appear, misusing the Dungeon Seekers system and causing the mass disappearance of players in the Tohoku region. A young woman, Riha Amamiya, was tasked with investigating and suppressing the cause. Her mission led her to track a female suspect, but in the process, a young man appeared, an even greater threat. This threat, Koryu Karase, brandished his weapon, the demon sword Dragon Eater. Riha observed its majestic, almost enchanting appearance, recognizing it as a fantasy-class blade that surpassed even legendary weapons. Koryu, however, was focused solely on her, declaring that he couldn't just leave her be. He lunged, but Riha effortlessly parried his strike with a hand glowing with energy, creating an opening. Koryu stared in shock at the sudden move. As he stumbled back from the force of the block, she coolly informed him that he was no match for her. As he knelt, catching his breath, she addressed him by his full name, Koryu Karase. She offered him a guarantee of self-defense if he would come with her to Tokyo without worry, stating that he should now understand the difference in their abilities. Koryu looked up in awe, realizing her golden blue magic had deflected his physical attack without leaving so much as a scratch. His amazement twisted into a wide, unnerving grin. "You're amazing," he breathed, his expression startling Riha. He then sprang to his feet, laughing with pure exhilaration. He shouted her first name, Riha, declaring that this was the kind of fun battle he had been looking for, the kind of fight that made him fall in love with combat. As she told him not to call her by her first name, he reminded her of her earlier promise to subdue him without injury. He continued with a fierce grin, promising that he wouldn't take her life or injure her either, but he would subdue her all the same. Riha noted that his will to fight hadn't diminished in the slightest. She considered that while she could likely subdue him at his full strength, the demon sword was the main problem. However, she suspected that due to the damage from his previous battle, he was likely unable to use its Dragon Devourer skill. Deciding to reset the engagement, Riha announced they would start over. She summoned several dark, crystalline polyhedrons into her hand. As Koryu watched with a mix of caution and surprise, she asked if they should begin, then launched the objects forward. The objects shot through the air and expanded, forming 4 large, translucent shields that hovered defensively around her. Koryu's eyes widened, a bead of sweat tracing down his temple as he stared in disbelief at the formidable barrier. He deftly dodged the crystalline shields, their sharp edges carving through the air where he'd been moments before. Leaping back, he narrowly avoided a direct strike from Riha's spear, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and exhilaration. The relentless assault continued as she pressed the attack, her spear a blur of motion. Koryu met the challenge with a wide, almost feral grin, his initial surprise giving way to pure battle joy as he parried and evaded. He weaved between a flurry of strikes, marveling at her technique. He had never encountered a fighting style that combined shield and spear with such deadly grace. Riha noted his impressive evasiveness, even though she was holding back. With a laugh, Koryu declared it was his turn to attack. She watched him closely, assessing his condition. By her calculations, his stamina should have been reaching its limit. Instead, she observed with surprise that his movements were only becoming more refined, more precise with every passing moment. Her analysis continued as she soared through the air. It was as if combat itself was an addiction for him. That surge of joy he felt was dangerous, she realized, and it was likely the very reason the demon sword had chosen him as its wielder. He closed the distance, his face alight with manic glee. He shouted her name, telling Riha how much fun this was, and that words were unnecessary. With his sword, he could understand everything she had worked for, her very essence. His declaration echoed as he proclaimed she was the perfect opponent for him. In that moment, Riha's appearance shifted, revealing her true face, that of his classmate, the girl with 2 white streaks in her bangs. She was stunned by his intensity, wondering if it was some psychological tactic to throw her off balance. She processed his words, her expression shifting to annoyance as she considered if he was simply being reckless. As Koryu stared in shock at her transformation, she effortlessly deflected another of his swings. Putting a stop to his advance, she planted the butt of her spear firmly on the ground. With a grave expression, she addressed him by his full name, Koryu Kurace, and declared, "Let's end this now." Her words began to weave a spell. As a shimmering aura enveloped her, she pronounced an incantation for him to disappear as if becoming transparent. Koryu could only watch, stunned, as the powerful magic manifested around his classmate. She begins the incantation, her eyes closed as ethereal energy swirls around her. With the final words of her spell, dissolve into the world, she vanishes completely. Koryu stares in disbelief at the empty space where she just stood. He shouts into the night, demanding to know where she has gone. A sudden glint of movement catches his eye, and he whirls around to see her charging at him from the side, her spear poised to strike. She closes in, confident that this is her strongest technique, and that her location is undetectable. But Koryu, a bead of sweat tracing his temple, grins with grim determination, resolving to land one final, decisive blow to end the fight. As she lunges, he swings his massive blade in a powerful arc, perfectly intercepting her spear. The impact sends a shockwave through the air, and Riha's eyes widen in astonishment at the impossible block. Her mind reels. According to the laws of the world, he shouldn't have been able to perceive her at all. But as their weapons remain locked, she spots an opening and believes she has him trapped. In a completely unexpected move, he releases his grip on the demon's sword, letting it fly into the air. He lunges forward with open hands, his sole focus now on catching her as she materializes from her dissolved state. His hands find their mark, and he laughs triumphantly, exclaiming that he's caught her. Riha is stunned, but quickly dismisses him as a threat without his demon sword. Her confidence shatters as she notices a dark, swirling energy beginning to emanate from his body. The energy erupts from him in thick, black tendrils, enveloping them both. Trapped in his grasp, she looks up in horror, recognizing the terrifying aura as black lacquer magic power. She can't believe it, questioning how he could possibly deploy a magic technique he has only just witnessed. Then, a horrifying realization dawns on her. His magic is not just surrounding her, it is flowing directly into her. Her form begins to destabilize, dissolving into particles of light as Koryu Kurace holds her gently under the crescent moon. The dark, consuming magic has vanished. She offers a faint smile as her eyes remain closed, her consciousness fading. "Thank you," he says softly. "That was fun." Sometime later, under the same night sky, the setting shifts to the quiet grounds of a traditional Japanese estate, its wooden gate standing closed and silent. Just inside, Riha Amamiya lies unconscious on the wooden floor. Her eyes flutter open to an unfamiliar ceiling. She wonders where she is, finding herself tucked into a futon. Koryu, sitting with his back to her, explains that this is his house, where he used to live with his mother, and that he couldn't just leave her there unconscious. He turns to face her, and they formally introduce themselves. He is Koryu Kurace. She is Riha Amamiya. When he asks if she is hurt, she inspects her hands, confirming she has no injuries. She admits her own carelessness, acknowledging that she was the one who was ultimately subdued. He leans in slightly, reminding her of his earlier promise. He told her he wouldn't injure her, he says, because he never wanted to fight to the death. She sits up in the futon, her gaze lowered as she quietly accepts his words with a simple, "I see." His attention then turns to a persistent ringing. Koryu points out that her phone has been buzzing nonstop. The screen shows an incoming call from her sister. Riha answers, and her sister's voice immediately demands to know the situation. On the other end of the line, Riha's sister demands a report from her office. Riha explains that after confirming Venom's death, her attempt to detain Koryu failed. When asked for her current location, she states plainly, "I'm talking with Koryu Kurace in bed." This phrasing causes her sister to erupt in shocked disbelief, while Koryu panics, yelling at her for the misunderstanding she's causing. Her conversation is suddenly intercepted by a man's voice. Producer Kuga introduces himself and immediately asks for confirmation. Is Kurace-kun, the demon sword wielder, present with her? Flustered, she manages a simple yes. Before she can say more, her sister's voice returns to the line, identifying herself as Riha Amamiya's point of contact. With a tone of authority, she announces that she is about to issue new instructions for management. The new directive is delivered, clear and non-negotiable. Riha is to accompany Kurace-kun for the time being. The order leaves her looking utterly unimpressed, while Koryu, standing nearby, stares in wide-eyed shock. In Koryu Kurace's kitchen, Riha Amamiya finds herself seated at a table, bewildered. She wonders what she is doing there as Koryu, wearing an apron, calmly chops vegetables and prepares a meal of spaghetti. He places a plate of pasta in front of her, asking if she likes it. Riha, who had expected to be kicked out, is taken aback. Koryu reassures her that it's not a big deal, especially since his life has been threatened more than once. Seeing that he is serious, she accepts, stating that she is hungry. As she looks at the steaming plate of spaghetti and meatballs, she thinks to herself that while this may not be a big deal, she has things she needs to ask him as well. Her eyes sparkle with delight at the sight of the food. Together, They put their hands together in thanks and agree to begin their meal. She takes her first bite, her cheeks puffing out as she savors the flavor. Koryu watches her, his mind racing. He has a mountain of questions for Riha. Who is giving her orders, and why did their plan change from abduction to simple monitoring? For now, however, he decides to simply stay with her. He continues to watch her eat, a faint smile on his lips as she kicks her feet back and forth happily beneath the table. He thinks to himself that, apart from all his questions, this is a pleasant moment. She thanks him formally, using his full name, Koryu Kare-san. He replies that he's glad she enjoys the food and tells her to drop the formal name, inviting her to call him whatever she likes. She agrees. She immediately calls him Hero. Koryu is completely flustered by the sudden familiarity. Noticing his shock, Riha asks if something is wrong, wondering if it's because she calls her own sister by her first name. He quickly stammers that it's fine and, accepting the new name, prepares to ask her a question of his own. He asks her directly about their battle, wanting to know how she managed to notice his final attack, which came from behind. Her eyes widen in surprise. Koryu explains that it was simply intuition. He just had a feeling that if she were going to attack, it would be from behind. Riha is stunned, finding it impossible that her trump card was countered by mere intuition. She internally questions if it was a miracle move born from a combat sense, a quality that made him worthy of being chosen by the demon's sword. She continued her analysis of their fight, explaining that if her attack had been serious and imbued with magic power, he might not have been able to block it, potentially resulting in serious injury or even death. With a slight blush, she conceded that if he had been fighting seriously, she would have been the one defeated. He smiled warmly, dismissing her concerns. He told her he now understood how strong she was, and that he found the fight enjoyable. He thanked her sincerely, leaving her momentarily speechless and emotional. The conversation paused as they focused on the meal Koryu had prepared, a simple plate of spaghetti. After finishing the meal, which Riha noted was nothing special but ate completely, Koryu's expression turned serious. He asked her directly to tell him what Dungeon Seekers is. She met his gaze and nodded, ready to explain. She began, addressing him as Hero. She warned that before they could talk about Dungeon Seekers, he had to abandon common sense, because the world he knew had crumbled the day he entered the dungeon. She then laid out the fundamental premise. There are 3 worlds: the surface world where they live, the underworld that is its counterpart, and the layered world where the 2 realms overlap. His eyes widened in shock as he asked if the dungeons were in the layered world. She confirmed this, clarifying that dungeons are, more precisely, enemy military bases. Riha revealed a startling truth. Their world is being threatened by an invasion from the underworld, a conflict that has been waged in secret since ancient times, forming a shadow history. She continued, revealing her own place in this secret war. Standing before an image of her ancestors, a formidable group of warriors, she declared that she belongs to a clan that has protected the world for generations. They are called yokai slayers. Her gaze was distant as she explained that this long history of conflict directly leads to the creation of the very thing he asked about. With her initial explanation concluded for the moment, Riha stood at the entrance of Koryu's home, preparing to leave. She thanked him again for the meal and stated she would return to her base to prepare. He simply told her to take care. Before she left, she turned back to him. She reminded him that he had fought both Venom and her the previous night and must be tired, urging him to rest well. He acknowledged her concern. With a final smile, she departed, leaving him to contemplate the new reality he had just been shown. She had continued her explanation to Hero, clarifying that the vortexes they enter are portals to the layered world, which the underworld uses to steal resources. As her words echo in his mind, Koryu sits on a park bench, clad in camouflage combat gear, staring at an image of just such a vortex on his phone. From a human perspective, these portals are simply the entrances to dungeons. The monsters encountered within, she explained, are all creatures originating from the underworld, swarming any who dare to enter. Some of these creatures manage to overflow from the vortex, terrorizing the surface world. These beings are what people have come to call yokai, or demons. His expression twists into a fierce grin as he recalls the final piece of her explanation. The yokai slayers are the clan that has made a living by exterminating these very creatures. He now understands that the systems of skills and levels are merely innovative techniques based on ancient yokai slayer rituals. The Amamiya family, Riha's family, is directly involved in their development and operation. The memory of their conversation becomes clearer. After he processed her words, Riha had bowed her head, apologizing for her deception. She admitted that she herself is not involved in the operational side of things and still harbors doubts about the management. He had asked about the reward rooms found after defeating a boss. Riha explained their space is caught up when the underworld creates a dungeon, typically filled with masks that humans can't equip. Though mostly junk, she noted that valuable documents or powerful weapons are sometimes recovered. Following that logic, he decides to simply take whatever looks equipable, his gloved hand closing around a sharp, black, mask-like artifact from a pile of rewards. Back in the present, Koryu looks at the image of a vortex over a familiar shrine. He thinks to himself that he doesn't care about invasions from the underworld. He cannot forgive the destruction of this place, a place filled with memories of his mother. With grim resolve, he decides to clear as many dungeons as he can. He throws himself into the fight, conquering E-rank and D-rank dungeons. For reasons unknown, There's been an explosive increase in underworld creatures breaking into the surface world recently. In response, the government and the yokai slayers rigorously train personnel to counter this growing crisis. He throws himself into this new world as a dungeon seeker, one of the few tasked with conquering the layered world's incursions. Wielding specialized weapon tools, he cuts a path through hordes of monsters, successfully clearing dungeons of F, E, and even D rank. This path was chosen after Riha gave him a rough explanation of the app's purpose. She had noted that it was still in beta and that general public participation was never anticipated. She even offered him a way back to his old life through a forgetting ritual, but with a steady gaze, he confirmed his choice to continue. From within a traditional style building, she saw his resolve and formally approved his participation, to which he simply acknowledged his understanding. His progress since has been explosive. Now at level 41, Koryu Kureis has acquired skills such as close combat proficiency, intuition, and covering barrier, along with a host of titles including Daredevil and One-Man Army. A grim smile spreads across his face as he reflects on his new life. He feels a sense of gratitude towards the dungeon seekers. After installing the app, his once stagnant existence has finally begun to move forward. Standing before a legion of shadowy beasts and demonic entities, he makes a solemn vow. He will conquer every single dungeon in Sendai. His mission carries on into the night. Under a starry sky, he steps out onto the city streets, ready for the next hunt. He walks alone down a narrow, lamp-lit street, a determined look on his face as he adjusts the strap of his backpack. At that same moment, not far away, Riha Amamiya approaches the large wooden gate of a traditional walled estate, pulling a suitcase behind her. Their paths unexpectedly cross. Koryu stops in his tracks, surprised to see her. Riha turns, asking what he's doing out so late. Before she can get an answer, he bursts with excitement, eager to tell her something. Before she could fully process the encounter, Koryu launched into an excited, unfiltered recounting of his recent adventures. He gushed about a one-on-one boss fight, the disgusting tentacle dungeon, and a cool, horned dog-like boss. As he spoke of maze-like dungeons, special slimes, and a 200 million yen item, her initial surprise hardened into a sharp, focused stare. He concluded by cheerfully reminding her that they had fought together the previous night, when he assisted her, a high-ranking yokai slayer. He finally paused, a nervous sweat breaking out on his face as he realized he might have revealed too much, stammering to ask if she had said something. She confirmed that she had. With a wide, unnerving smile, Riha told him that he must be tired and should rest well for the day, reaffirming that this was indeed what she had said. Her calm demeanor was a prelude to a stark declaration under the starry sky, outside a traditional gated estate. She informed him it was time for a lecture, adding that she was now also in charge of monitoring him, leaving Koryu utterly terrified. As the school day concludes, a female classmate calls out to Koryu Kureis in the hallway. He pauses by the lockers, turning to see her hurrying over. She catches up to him, explaining that she'd forgotten to mention something earlier. The teacher said he still hadn't turned his career path for him. She then asks if something is wrong, having just noticed his demeanor. He looks at her thoughtfully as she observes that he seems brighter lately. He concedes that might be so, attributing it to finding something fun to do. Waving goodbye, he tells her he's meeting someone and will bring the foreman tomorrow. She smiles warmly and waves back, telling him that's great news. The memory of the previous night surfaces. Koryu sits exhausted on the floor, while Riha Amamiya stands over him. He protests that there are only 5 dungeon attempts allowed per day, but she dismisses this, saying he should challenge himself as much as time allows. He argues his body will break down, but his desire to enter is strong. Riha then makes a deal. If he accepts her condition, she will accompany him on his C-rank challenge tomorrow. Koryu is stunned into silence. In response to his silence, Riha demands a clearer answer, complaining his voice is too quiet. He loudly affirms his acceptance, shouting that he promises. She gives a small, satisfied smile. Returning to the present, the two ride a rattling train. Koryu stands, absorbed in his phone, while Riha sits nearby, similarly occupied. On his phone screen, a text conversation unfolds. He messages Riha that school is over and he's on the train. After her brief reply, he types a new proposal to limit their dungeon attempts to 10 per day. His suggestion is immediately rejected with a blunt text. That's not an option. He looks up, flustered, as Riha calls out his alias, Hero. She's waiting for him at the station, looking pleased that he's early. She announces she has already found a suitable dungeon and urges him to follow her there immediately. They arrive on a crowded overpass where a swirling, black C-rank vortex hangs in the air. Koryu notes the large number of onlookers with concern. Riha, however, is unfazed and asks if he's ready. She tells him it's fine and then, to his shock, extends her hand towards him, telling him to take it. She quickly explains that she will use invisibility to enter unnoticed. Koryu, flustered but understanding, agrees to do the same, thinking to himself that since Riha already stands out, it's best to avoid drawing any more attention. He takes her offered hand, and a faint shimmer of energy envelopes their joined grasp as they step towards the vortex. They are transported into a desolate, rocky wasteland littered with crumbling pillars. This is a C-rank dungeon, branch vortex 15/326, marked for destruction. All around them, Muscular, wolf-like monsters prowl through a thick mist. As they take in their surroundings, a hulking, horned ogre looms nearby. Koryu, now wearing a tactical mask, identifies them as the first dungeon bosses. Riha, holding a spear, calmly states that these creatures are considered mere small fry in a C-rank dungeon, a sign of significant power creep. She tells Koryu she will handle this first wave and instructs him to watch closely, to which he agrees. His observation is cut short when he spots a massive stone pillar flying directly at them. He shouts a warning, but Riha is unfazed. She explains that from C-rank onwards, dungeons have defensive mechanisms and traps, urging him not to let his guard down. In a flash, she leaps into the fray. Her spear glows with power as she carves a path through the horde of monsters, dispatching them with fluid, devastating strikes. He watches, mesmerized by her skill. He realizes her fighting is on another level entirely, beautiful and strong. The more he observes, the more he understands the vast difference in their abilities. After the monsters are defeated, Koryu approaches her, admitting she's incredible and that he couldn't have done it alone. Noticing his somber tone, Riha asks if something is wrong. He acknowledges the immense power gap between them, but she clarifies that while she can dominate C-rank dungeons, B and A-rank dungeons would be impossible for her to clear by herself. She continues, her tone serious, explaining that from now on, they will be facing legendary yokai and even stronger beings. The word legendary catches Koryu completely by surprise. He listens intently as she defines yokai as beings from the underworld that cause tremendous damage, leaving legends in their wake. She then gestures to a massive, ornate set of doors, announcing that the boss battle is next. She turns to him with a challenge. She wants to see his true power, so he must face this one alone. As the doors creak open, a colossal, fanged beast lunges from the darkness. Riha calmly identifies the creature as the Devourer, a yokai whose legends are known all over the world. Koryu can only stare up in shock at the terrifying monster he must now face. He stands frozen before the colossal beast, its killing intent washing over him. Riha observes that while his demon sword is powerful, it's useless without the courage to face his foe. He grips his weapon, realizing with dawning horror that this suffocating pressure is what it feels like to be on the brink of death. Snapping out of his terror, he shouts Riha's name, declaring that his true opponent isn't the Devourer, but himself. A smile touches Riha's lips as she encourages him to do his best. Just as the monster lunges forward to attack, he leaps into the fray, but is immediately pushed back by the sheer force of the beast. Riha watches intently, recognizing this not as a battle for life, but a battle of devouring. She knows that to face a legendary yokai, he would need dozens more levels. A single direct hit would obliterate it. Yet, she understands that what fills such an overwhelming gap in power is technique and courage. As if proving her point, he narrowly evades the monster's snapping jaws. The Devourer counters with shocking agility, launching its massive body into the air. Koryu stares in disbelief at its speed, steeling himself with the vow to take its head. Riha, however, senses it's not yet time to strike. It crashes down with immense force, shattering the earth where he just stood. From the dust, the beast's eye glints with a malevolent grin. Riha, now holding a large flag, addresses the beast directly, questioning its pride and telling it to look more closely at the situation. The Devourer turns its massive head toward her. Her words were a distraction. In that moment, Koryu had performed a godlike feat, narrowly avoiding the yokai's devastating attack to land a clean strike of his own. The beast lets out a pained roar. Watching him, Riha reflects on his nature. He is no trained soldier or yokai slayer, yet he is far from ordinary. She concludes that he possesses an undeniable natural talent, something that allows him to achieve the impossible. She then notices a critical shift. The yokai's eyes, once burning with killing intent, are now filled with fear. The beast has come to a terrifying realization. It is no longer the hunter, but the prey. From the air, Koryu confirms this, declaring that the monster is afraid of him. As he prepares his final move, Riha recognizes that his secret technique is about to be unleashed. He unleashes his secret technique, a devastating blast of concentrated energy he calls Dragon Devourer. The attack obliterates the legendary yokai, leaving only scorched remains on the dungeon floor. Koryu stands over the vanquished beast, a confident, almost predatory, grin spreading across his face. From a distance, Riha observes him, her expression troubled. She worries that his intense focus on dungeons will lead to an obsession with battle, a path she fears will ultimately destroy him. Her concern deepens as she watches him walk away from the carnage, realizing she may be the only one who can prevent him from losing his way as a warrior. Shaking off her thoughts, she runs to his side, taking his hand and calling him by his nickname, Hero. She congratulates him on the victory and urges him toward the reward room so they can finally leave. Koryu agrees, expressing his hope for a valuable reward. Sometime later, having exited the dungeon, they walk through the city streets near Sendai Station. Koryu expresses his disappointment, finding the C-rank dungeon tiring and the reward lackluster. He then turns to Riha, asking if there's anywhere she'd like to go and suggesting a nearby cafe. The unexpected invitation leaves her momentarily speechless and flustered. Inside the cafe, Koryu looks over the menu, admitting his inexperience and suggesting a cake set as a safe bet. Riha seems puzzled by the concept. Noticing her confusion, he asks what's wrong. She suddenly bursts with excitement, proclaiming her knowledge of coffee, explaining that her sister is an avid drinker. However, when Koryu asks if she has ever tried it, she firmly denies it, particularly a café au lait. He sighs, telling her she can just have a cake. Suspicious, she asks if he's tricking her, questioning if it tastes bad or bitter. After he reassures her, she asks him to choose one for her. As he tells her to pick one herself, he mentions he has something to ask her. Her attention shifts to the menu, and she decides on something called creme brulee. The unfamiliar name piques Koryu's curiosity, sounding to him like a new type of yokai, and he reflects that he's slowly beginning to understand her. She begins to explain what he asked about, stating she was curious about the branch vortex mentioned in the dungeon's information. She describes dungeons as living structures, growing like massive trees. Their roots, she explains, absorb magical power, while their leaves gather energy like sunlight, with the entire system expanding from a central trunk and its subsequent branches. Continuing her explanation, she lays out the entire structure. The most powerful and A-rank dungeon is the trunk vortex. From it grows a B-rank large branch vortex, which in turn supports a C-rank branch vortex, like the one they just cleared. Further down the line are D-rank small branches and finally, E and F-rank twigs. She concludes by stating that conquering a higher-level dungeon causes all interconnected, lower-ranked dungeons to be destroyed as well. The system becomes clear to Koryu. He processes this new information, realizing that to achieve his goal of conquering all dungeons in Sendai, he only needs to defeat the single A-rank dungeon. He acknowledges the immense difficulty of such a task, remembering that Riha herself admitted she couldn't handle a B-rank dungeon solo. Despite the challenge, this revelation gives him a clear, concrete objective. He must become stronger. His focus returns to the present. He asks Riha what their next step should be. She is completely absorbed in her first taste of creme brulee, her face flushed with pleasure. Startled by his question, she quickly affirms she's listening and, collecting herself, suggests that challenging a B-rank dungeon will be too difficult until they've both grown stronger. She lays out a plan, suggesting that for the time being, they should focus on clearing C and D-rank dungeons. This, she explains, will allow them to level up and, more importantly, strengthen their coordination as a team. Koryu listens, his expression serious and determined. Later, outside a cafe, the serious mood breaks when he casually points out to Riha that she has cream on her mouth, causing her to become flustered. At this point, Koryu Kurace has reached level 52, possessing skills such as close combat proficiency, intuition, and magic power manipulation, along with titles like Lone Warrior and Secret Sword User. The monstrous Dragon Devourer dissipates, its form crumbling after a fierce battle. A system message confirms the defeat of the dungeon boss. Nearby, Riha Amamiya offers a warm smile and congratulates Koryu Kurace, who stands exhausted, letting out an involuntary burp. He startles at the sound he just made, but Riha quickly draws his attention to a message from the Dungeon Seekers app on his phone. He looks down to see a notification. An optimization is now available. Riha explains that this is a skill customization feature, allowing him to integrate skills and titles to discover new ones, and encourages him to try it. He accesses the feature and is presented with a new title, Samurai's Pride. The description speaks of a noble aesthetic, honoring adversity and providing an aptitude for fighting with swords and armor. A look of pure delight spreads across his face, and Riha observes to herself that he seems happy to be called a samurai. Later that evening, a train clatters along the tracks, its illuminated windows a stark contrast to the dark city skyline under a crescent moon. Aboard the train, Koryu and Riha, now in their regular school clothes, sit together. Riha remarks that his skills and titles have a distinctly Japanese style. He agrees, noting that it's easier for him since there are fewer foreign words to learn. He then turns to her, asking for her advice on which skills he should acquire. As she looks at him, he briefly wonders if her previous comment was meant as a compliment. She considers his request thoughtfully. She suggests that, for now, it would be good for him to go all in on Japanese-style attacks. She mentions potential compatibility issues, but believes he is already on the right path, and that a skill evolution might eventually become possible. Taking her advice to heart, he browses his skill options. His finger pauses over one in particular, Castle Siege Strategy, a skill that aids in understanding battle situations and detecting defensive mechanisms. He selects it, and Riha quickly warns him to be careful not to use too many skill points, as they will be needed for evolution. As he confirms his choice, her eyes go wide with shock as she spots something on his screen. "What?" she cries out, pointing at a skill that has the potential to evolve. He shows her the phone, where the skill evolution as possible option is clearly displayed. Riha is stunned, explaining that an evolution allows one to learn a unique original ritual, something far more valuable than 3 or 4 normal skills. Intrigued, Koryu asks how many skills he can get with it. Her outburst draws the attention of another passenger, causing her to blush and stammer an apology. Staring at the screen, Koryu made his decision. He tapped the confirmation button to evolve the skill, and a brilliant flash of light erupted from his phone. A new passive ability was born, Indomitable Courage, a skill for a warrior who has faced death countless times and persists. The light subsided, leaving them standing in silence on the train platform. The train they had just exited sat waiting as they both processed the sudden acquisition of the active skill surpass physical limits. As they walked from the station, he finally broke the silence, asking if he had done something wrong. He apologized for using 100 points without consulting her, but she quickly dismissed his concern, exclaiming that she never imagined she would witness someone reaching the state of a yokai slayer while on a public train. He then asked if this meant he was now as strong as her, wondering aloud if the evolution was truly that powerful. Riha shook her head, clarifying that it wasn't about strength. What he had acquired, she explained, was a unique ritual technique. She playfully pointed a finger, boasting that what she possessed was a level above a specific battle technique, and therefore, she was still stronger. Watching her childish display, he realized it was a sign that she felt comfortable around him. A few days later, the scene shifted to the DS Management Office's Tokyo branch. In a sleek boardroom, Riha's sister concluded a presentation on the current trends of the Dungeon Seekers beta, preparing to move on to the next topic, player data. From across the table, an elderly executive noted that while the average player level had risen, a significant gap remained between the top 15 high-ranking players and the rest of the field. In response, she projected Koryu's profile onto the main screen. She reported that new players in the Tohoku region were conquering vortexes one after another in a short period, suggesting they might soon approach the top ranks. The elderly man acknowledged the impressive record for someone so young, and producer Kuga confirmed that this was indeed the player who had defeated the serial killer. The elderly man scoffed as he reviewed the data. The player's record was level 54 with 62 conquests, a feat he deemed suspicious. He declared that any normal person would undoubtedly go insane attempting such a rapid climb. Producer Kuga calmly countered the skepticism, reminding his colleague that one of their primary goals was to find exceptional talent that conventional methods might overlook. The elderly man gritted his teeth, shifting his concern to the country's preparedness for the layered world with the official release approaching. Kuga, however, was confident, assuring him that the government's upper echelon was already devising strategies for the coming anti-yokai war. The elderly executive slams his hands on the table, his voice booming with indignation. He questions if they're truly suggesting the yokai slayers will be inferior, pointing out that humans possess firearms, advanced technology, and vast resources. If they can master these new techniques, he declares, the entire balance of power might be reversed. His furious outburst leaves a tense silence in its wake. Producer Kuga calmly adjusts his glasses, while Riha's sister and another executive observe the simmering conflict. The tension is broken when the elderly executive abruptly stands, announcing that he has just remembered an urgent matter and must take his leave. He storms out of the meeting room, leaving the others startled. As he departs, another executive advises producer Kuga that it would be best to keep the heated statement confined to the room. Kuga, however, appears unbothered, gesturing dismissively. He steers the conversation back to the main agenda, conceding his earlier point was premature. The real issue, he clarifies, is the abnormal speed of the Tohoku player's dungeon conquest. When he asks for countermeasures, Riha's sister speaks up, stating the matter is already being handled. She reveals that her younger sister, the yokai slayer Riha Amamiya, has been assigned to oversee the player's activities, shocking the other executives. One of them expresses concern, but another feels that with Riha involved, there shouldn't be any problems, though he admits the situation feels precarious. Producer Kuga turns to Amamiya's sister and asks if she is worried. She responds with certainty, offering to show them Riha's work report. At Kuga's request, she announces she will display it on the central projector. The report appears on the screen, a personal video message from Riha. She cheerfully greets her sister, explaining that someone named Hero has been taking her to various places and that she's having a lot of fun. Her older sister watches with a mortified expression as Riha excitedly asks if she knows about conveyor belt sushi. She continues her enthusiastic explanation, spreading her arms wide to demonstrate how the sushi moves along the conveyor belt with a whoosh sound. She concludes her story, stifling a laugh. She recounts how at first, she only took the sushi off the plates, but Hiro's desperate expression stopped her. Finding the situation hilarious, she couldn't help but laugh and advises her sister to be careful and take the whole plate if she ever goes. She continues her report from the field, covering her face in embarrassment as she recounts a trivial detail about Hiro putting too much wasabi on his sushi. To the silent executives watching, she promises to send a picture of his bright red face later. Flustered, she fumbles with her device and quickly ends the transmission, the screen cutting to a flat line. Back in the boardroom, Riha Amamiya stands before the executives and offers her apologies. Her sister, seated at the table, asks if she is under management, to which Riha quietly confirms that she is. However, producer Kuga rises, spreading his arms magnanimously. He dismisses the issue, stating that the young lady has many points that deserve sympathy, much to Riha's surprise. He leans in closer, his tone shifting. He quietly tells her that the path she is on is far too pitiful, and suggests that if one considers this her last taste of freedom, her behavior might be forgivable. A bead of sweat rolls down Riha's cheek. Kuga turns his back on her, leaving her standing alone and silent in the corner of the room as the other executives watch. With that, he walks down the long corporate hallway with another executive, announcing that the meeting is adjourned for the day. After they depart, Riha's sister remains in the empty boardroom. She clenches her fist tightly, her expression a mixture of frustration and concern as she looks back at Riha and murmurs her name. Far away, under a starry night sky in a remote mountain range, stands a traditional dojo. Inside, rows of figures kneel in silent observance before two individuals seated at the head of the room. The scene focuses on a monstrous being who addresses the assembly as his proud fellow yokai slayers, his voice filled with contempt as he decries the upstart Kuga, devoid of pride. His rage boils over as he proclaims that their pride, built over 1,000 years, is being sullied by Kuga's accursed machinations. He bellows that the sacred techniques of the yokai slayers are falling into the hands of the current powers, and they cannot stand by while the legacy of their ancestors is handed over. They must, he insists, strike down the traitor Kuga, a sentiment echoed fiercely by his followers. In response to the uproar, a figure with long white hair steps forward from the shadows, commanding everyone to calm themselves. The diverse assembly of slayers immediately falls silent. The elderly master turns his head, acknowledging the newcomer with a simple, respectful utterance. Lord. The master's face twists in fury once more as he declares their primary objective. They shall crush Kuga's ambitions. But before that, he announces, they must punish those unworthy individuals who have obtained power through him. The targets for this punishment, he reveals, are the top 5 members of Kuga's organization. Hearing this, their lord makes a formal request to add one more target to the list. A younger slayer, bowing deeply beside him, concurs, stating that this addition will ensure Kuga understands the true depth of his foolishness. The masked slayer considers the proposed target, recognizing them as the one who defeated their assassin. He reflects that while the serial killer they deployed had her flaws, she was no ordinary fighter that could be so easily overcome. As a vision of the battle flashes through his mind, the elderly master roars with sudden understanding. It seems Kuga has his eye on that one as well. If left unchecked, he warns, they could become a significant threat. The Lord, observing the armored warriors standing ready before them, calmly accepts this information and gives his approval. Very well. With the plan solidified, the masked slayer addresses the assembly, his voice ringing with conviction. He declares their mission a righteous battle for the very pride of the yokai slayers. They will execute their great cause, he proclaims, on the night of the next full moon. His words are met with a unified, silent understanding. Far from the mountain dojo, in a skyscraper overlooking the vast, illuminated cityscape, producer Kuga stands alone, contemplating the night. A slight smile plays on his lips as he considers the situation. He muses that Dungeon Seekers is an innovative technology, and because of it, the intentions of various factions have begun to intertwine, making everything far more complicated. His thoughts drift to two figures walking away into the light. This complication, he concludes, is precisely why they need them. Those who are tormented by fate. Koryu Karace and Riha Amamiya stand before the swirling maw of the B-rank dungeon, the Great Dragon Vortex. Riha declares it's time to challenge it, urging him to stay focused. She senses an immense magical energy and asks if he's all right, noting his unusual silence. She acknowledges that conquering such a dungeon would normally take multiple yokai slayers, but expresses her confidence, stating that with Hiro by her side, they can succeed as she takes his hand. He smiles, affirming that he has indeed worked hard to get to this point. Ria's expression brightens as she adds that he has grown strong enough to conquer C-rank dungeons all on his own. Their shared confidence is fueled by memories of past trials and triumphs, battling monsters, training, and sharing meals. With renewed resolve, they agree to move forward together to conquer the B-rank dungeon. Upon entering, they find themselves in a black, empty void populated by strange, white, worm-like creatures with gaping, circular maws. Koryu's intuition immediately screams a warning of immense danger as he questions where they are. Riha identifies the creatures as vortex eels, a type of yokai. She explains that they are incredibly tough and attack in groups, but haven't noticed them yet due to her invisibility. She warns him not to touch them and advises they avoid a fight and keep moving forward. Now, wearing a tactical mask, Koryu stands beside Riha as they carefully navigate the space. The eels drift perilously close to their feet, completely unaware of their presence. He lets out a quiet breath, his gloved hand tightening around hers. He realizes that if they let their guard down for even a second, the eels will swarm them all at once. Clearing this place alone would be an impossible task. As they press on, Riha spots a glowing portal in the distance, the exit. She reminds him to stay alert until the very end. Suddenly, a warning flashes across Koryu's visor. Riha cries out his name in alarm. Their stealth has failed. They are now completely surrounded by a massive swarm of vortex eels, their tooth-filled mouths wide open. Riha realizes they've been noticed and apologizes, declaring she will intercept the attack and telling him to get ready. He agrees instantly, pushing her behind him as the horde lunges forward, preparing to meet the onslaught himself. He anxiously asks Riha for a status update. She responds that it's no good. With a sweep of her staff, she conjures a web of binding light, but the sheer number of eels overwhelms her magic. The overwhelming swarm presses closer. Riha warns that at this rate, they'll be worn down by the sheer numbers. She urges him to charge in and fight as he normally would, promising to provide support. A look of understanding crosses his face, and with a determined cry, He surges forward into the horde. He plunges into the fray, his blade a blur as he carves a path through the writhing mass of vortex eels. As he fights, he marvels at Riha's flawless support. She seems to anticipate his every move, perfectly understanding his sword techniques. He calls out his attacks, diagonal, reverse diagonal, horizontal, and challenges her to keep up with his increased pace. She retorts that he shouldn't underestimate her, ready for whatever comes next. Their synchronized movements create an opportunity. As Koryu executes a powerful thrust, a ritual deep within his soul awakens, telling him this is the moment. A visible opening appears in the dense swarm of vortex eels. In the heat of the moment, he turns to a stunned Riha and declares with fierce conviction that she is truly the best woman for him. Her face flushes red, and she is left momentarily speechless. She stammers that he's getting too excited, but he pays her no mind. Announcing that he will bloom like a flower on the battlefield, he prepares to unleash his secret sword technique. With a roar, he unleashes the attack, Dragon Devourer. A devastating wave of energy tears through the swarm, obliterating the eels in its path. The devastating attack carves a clean path through the horde, revealing the exit. With the way clear, he grabs a surprised Riha and declares they will charge through to the end. As they race towards the exit, he turns to her, his expression serious, and says he's counting on her to handle any remaining eels that block their path. Still flustered by his earlier declaration, she can only manage a squeak of acknowledgement. She beams with excitement while being carried, confidently telling Koryu to leave things to her. He sprints with her held securely in his arms, racing down the path they cleared toward the distant light of the dungeon exit. As he charges forward, his blade becomes a blur, effortlessly deflecting the last of the lunging vortex eels with swift, precise slashes. Her excitement unabated, she calls out his alias, Hero. Startled by her sudden address in the heat of the moment, he looks down and asks what is wrong. In response, she twists in his arms and delivers a powerful kick, obliterating a vortex eel that was lunging at them from the side. A thought flashes through her mind. She knows she absolutely shouldn't be doing this, but the thrill of the moment is undeniable. She admits to herself that she's starting to have fun, her face alight with pure joy. Koryu looks down, his eyes wide with surprise at her exhilarated expression. Sharing her sentiment, Koryu shouts for them to ride this momentum. Riha enthusiastically agrees, exclaiming that she feels the same way as they continue their sprint. Their combined energy carries them through the exit and onto the fourth floor of the dungeon, a long, narrow bridge suspended over a seemingly bottomless abyss filled with towering pillars. Taking a moment to rest, they walk along the bridge. Koryu unwraps a rice ball, remarking that conquering a B-rank dungeon takes time and that bringing a snack was the right call. He informs Riha that this dungeon has 8 floors, meaning they're now exactly halfway through. She seems surprised by this, questioning if they're truly only halfway. He clarifies that high-difficulty dungeons don't necessarily have many floors, with some ending after just one. He then uses that back in the real world. The moon must be out by now. As they reach the other side of the bridge, Riha offers him some of her snack. She then asks him a direct question. Did you just level up? Caught off guard, Koryu pauses and realizes he should check his status. He confirms her suspicions, announcing that he has indeed leveled up and acquired 2 new titles. Riha, momentarily distracted from the news, excitedly points out his limited edition matcha latte and asks for a sip. His status screen reveals the truth. Koryu Kurase is now level 76. Among his abilities, 2 new titles are listed. Moon Sword and Perfect Pair. Riha asks what kind of titles he received. Koryu reads the description for Moon Sword, which speaks of a great vessel and an unwavering ambition that illuminates people. He dismisses it as being as incomprehensible as his natural war talent, and suggests they skip it. She persists, however, asking about the other title, Perfect Pair. Koryu hesitates, a look of uncertainty on his face. The title's description fills their vision. It speaks of a man and woman so well-matched they move as one on the battlefield. Crucially, it states that when heading to battle with her, the user's physical abilities are enhanced. Both of them stare, wide-eyed and speechless. It continues, explaining that they feel out of place when not together. Koryu scrolls through the text on his device as Riha looks on, the full weight of the words sinking in. The implication is too much for Riha. Her face flushes a deep red as she becomes completely flustered, stammering that she can't handle it. Koryu, taken aback by her reaction, urges her to calm down. As he tries to soothe her, Koryu reminds her that they're surrounded by yokai and must remain calm. In the shadows, 3 large, bald figures watch them, mentioning a ritual called the Great Shaking Ceremony. Realizing they must focus, Koryu and Riha agree to examine the title's details later, but a sudden, violent tremor shakes the ground beneath them. The tremor intensifies, and the stone bridge they stand on cracks and shatters. With a roar of splintering rock, the path crumbles into the dark abyss below, catching them completely by surprise. Koryu is left stranded on a lone fragment of the bridge. Across the chasm, Riha turns in horror, screaming his name. He yells back, warning her not to come for him. On pillars beyond Koryu, 2 figures stand waiting, one bald and muscular, the other with long, flowing hair. Across the chasm, Riha stared at the 2 figures who had confronted Koryu, Her eyes widened with a dawning horror as she realized they were not players, but something far more dangerous: yokai slayers. Elsewhere, a figure in a demonic mask sat enthroned in a grand hall, a silent testament to their power. Outside, the moon was full, signaling a time of great importance. That moment had arrived. A woman with long dark hair and a baseball cap declared that, for the pride of the yokai slayers, they would carry out their great cause. Below her, her forces engaged armored players in brutal combat. She gave the chilling order: kill all the players. Her warriors moved with deadly purpose, and one armored player turned an alarm just as an attacker descended upon him. The player was seized by a hooded slayer, choking out a question of who they were. The slayer dismissed him as an insolent player and vowed to take his head, a promise immediately fulfilled as their comrades cheered in the background. The chaos of the slaughter was punctuated by the violent explosion of the bridge, which disintegrated into a shower of stone and debris. Far below, Koryu coughed amidst the dust, having survived the long fall. He wondered what floor he had landed on when his eyes settled on a lone figure in the distance: a girl. Back on the upper level, the elderly yokai slayer leader chuckled as he watched Riha. He remarked that by following Koryu, they had caught quite a big fish. He then identified her by her full name and title: Riha Amamiya, the princess of the freezing rain. His muscular companion added that they had heard Koryu was an up-and-coming player. The elder agreed, surmising that most of the boys' battle experience was thanks to Riha. He also correctly deduced that Koryu was responsible for the strange movements of the vortex eels, musing that it would have been easier if he had simply perished in the fall. Unaware of their conversation, Koryu approached the frightened girl and asked if she was all right. As he did, a chilling realization struck him. The ravine he fell through was a direct path to the dungeon's lowest floor. He looked down at the small, crying girl, but her face twisted into a monstrous visage. Her eyes were vast, dark pits welling with tears, her mouth a gaping maw of fangs. Her thoughts were solely focused on him, the boy who had fallen into her domain. Her true form was far more terrifying. A colossal, segmented white beast, a giant centipede, descended from the cavern ceiling above. The girl was fused to its head, riding the monster down towards him. Koryu could only stare upwards in disbelief and horror as the creature's massive body slammed into the ground before him. As the monstrous princess loomed over him, two elderly figures emerged from the shadows. One of them identified the creature with a smirk: the B-rank dungeon boss, the legendary centipede princess. He explained that their objective from the very beginning was Koryu himself. The boy, he declared, would become a sacrifice for the yokai residing on the lowest floor. He then commanded the princess to be a good girl and withdraw. Before the centipede princess could react, another voice cut through the tension. A young woman in a formal, traditional-style outfit stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the beast. She addressed the creature directly, identifying her not as a yokai, but as the last of the Amamiya yokai slayers. The revelation left both Koryu and the centipede princess stunned.